Today on Gamers Couch,
The Legends of Andor, Chada and Thorn.
Hello!
Hello, and yes, it is up for debate if it is actually Thorn, as we would say in the German title, or if it is Thorn, which we don't know because there's, I think, no English release yet. So,
We will see.
Surprise German edition.
Well, first of all, welcome to the couch. This is Daniel, my sweet husband, and I am Sarah, the artist behind Pinselgeschichten, and each Sunday, just like today, we are talking board games on the couch, and today it's a new game. If you watched last week's Gamers Couch episode, you saw the game that he unpacked.
I saw that.
Yeah, you were in it. So we are already talking about that new game, so you can figure we played it a lot this week. But we're getting ahead of ourselves, or I am. How does this format go? Well, he talks about rules and gameplay first, because he's really good at explaining things.
You can skip that, it's the boring part.
If you're interested in how the game plays, watch it. Then we talk about what we liked or not liked about the game, and we finish up with funny stories and experiences. And since it's Christmas season, we do have another chapter at the end of the video, which is unpacking his advent calendar. We got box number 3 this week, so if you're curious what he gets and what you will probably see on the couch in one of the upcoming episodes, stay tuned for that. So let's hop right in.
Mm-hmm.
Rules and gameplay. Tell us all about it while I drink coffee and look intelligent.
As the title suggests, Chada and Thorn takes place in the universe of the Legends of Andor. Although this is not an expansion, you might think it is, because the small expansion boxes look very similar to this. This is actually the 2-player card game, and it's a cooperative game as Legends of Andor, in which you either play Thorn or Chada, or Rainy Thorn or Rainy Chada. And yes, you're playing together to make your way through a cursed island. I don't want to give away too much of what little story is in here, but it is essentially you arrive at an island represented by these, this is the reference tile, by these fine map tiles, and you have your little, if you've played Andor, you're familiar with little cardboard meeple. You'll move these around these boards and try to get to the end. Typically, one of these scenarios consists of 4 of these maps, where the start and the end tile are always the same, and the middle tiles are 1 out of, it depends, 6 or 4. It comes with the scenario how many of these middle steps you have, but you draw randomly out of them, and that's kind of where the replay value comes in. So how do you play? You've already seen you have a card, but you don't really hold that in hand because, surprise, you have 3 cards with your hero on them, and each comes with different abilities. But you may imagine that as 3 rows of cards in front of you, and whenever you use a card or a new card arrives, it gets placed at the back of the row. So by using cards, you will do whatever you want to do with this card and place it back to the row, so you kind of rotate through these 3 rows of cards. Now, not all cards are good cards. Well, certainly those 3 hero cards that you have are good cards, but you start right away with these curse cards, which look all the same from this side and a little bit different from this side, but you start with them on this side, so you don't know who has what curse in which row. And as you might have guessed, there's 6 curse cards, so there's 1 curse card behind every character card when you start. So let's say you want to use that card, on the next, then you put the card on the back of that row. On the next turn, you do whatever the German thing on here says. it's not too difficult. It just says if you have the text on front, you just flip it around and then you know which cursor it is and put it back. And the next time you encounter it, you have to do one of these, well, distracting little annoyances that are on the back, on the bottom of the curse card, to get back to your action card that you want to do to use to get forward across the island. You're not alone entirely, though. Yes, it's a two-person co-op game and you can work together, but you have a couple of friends at your disposal. And of these 4 friends that may come with you, well, on medium difficulty, let's say, you pick one of those and put it behind the center row hero card. So your center row will look like this at the start of the game. You have your hero, then you have your friend, and then you have the curse that has not been turned. So the first 3 turns on this row, or the first 3 activations on this row, will certainly look like you use him, place him on back, you use your friend, place him on back, then you have the curse card, turn it around, place it on back, and then you start rotating through these things. And that is kind of this main gameplay mechanic in this entire game. Now, as I said, not all cards are good cards. The curse cards are certainly bad cards, and if you're familiar with the base Andor cooperative game, there are, well, fog tiles across the board, which could usually bring good or bad stuff. Well, here it is usually bad stuff. So if you come across a space that forces you to pick one of these fog cards, you have to take one out of the active stack, reveal it, and place it in the back row of whatever action made you gain one of these cards. So if you used your hero to walk forward and the field you land on says take a fog card, you would pick that up and place it on the back. Which actually, let's take a look at what these nice little maps actually show you, and let me see what's on here. To see if this actually makes sense. So the start cards obviously have starting spaces for your little dudes, as well as a starting space for the curse, which is the same image as on the curse cards, and yes, they're unfortunately related. As you can see with the arrows, it's pretty clear where you have to go. Although if the way branches, you may choose to where you want to go. The cursed dude always follows the straight and not the dotted line, which is kind of the shortest path to the goal. As you can see here, or maybe not because it's really small, each of these spaces has a number of them. So to go from here to there, you need to play a card that gives you at least 1 movement point. And movement points are on the top here. So if you play her in the most basic fashion, this gives you 2 movement points and you move the card back, and Chada would move to this space. She would also gain a strength token. There's a couple of those available, and you will spend them at different occasions to do different stuff. And then turn passes to Thorn, and Thorn moves on. One thing that's interesting about this and makes the kind of cooperative strategy building interesting is if a character is standing on that space, you kind of ignore that space for the other characters, so you can cover up traps or cover up negative effects, and the other player can just move over it. This also goes for the movement points that are on here. So as you may be able to see, this costs 1 point, but this costs 3 points to move across. But if someone is already standing there, you can move straight to the red tile down here by spending 2 points. One for the first one here and another one for the red one down here, which is probably really difficult to see through my hand.
They all had X-ray vision.
But I think you might have guessed. So green strength tiles give you one of those tokens. Red means you have to spend a token. If you don't have a token, you cannot move there. You have to wait until you are able to spend the token to move there. If a movement tile is red, a hero has to stop there. Even if you have 1,000 movement points, it doesn't matter. You have to stop there. And don't falt the Karte, which is German for don't screw up this recording by breaking stuff. But with those red spaces, the same rule applies. If a hero is already standing on there, the next hero can jump over him, just ignoring the red space. So you always want to coordinate who moves first, how far does someone go, what can you do. Some of these fields allow you to pick up specific equipment, like this Hadric glass or sand glass, which is somewhere around here, yeah, which is another card, which then you would, as with all the equipment, put on the back of the row where the action was that you used to get there. So you also kind of have to think about which of the rows you want to activate if you have different movement actions, because that affects where things you get put into those 3 columns of cards in front of you. You move by spending those movement tokens up here, as I said. The curse by himself does not move on a regular basis. Actually, it is kind of the penalty you have to pay by, well, getting rid of certain cards, or if you want to use an action that is worth more than the base action. So let's say Chada here has her base action is move 2, but you could also move 4, but then you have to move the curse for 1 space. If the curse would ever reach your guys or get in front of you on the track, you lose immediately. And if you take a look again at that first map, the curse starts here. So if I would have used that move 4 space, he would have moved directly into our way, and we would have lost immediately on the first turn, which you kind of want to avoid there. Other penalties include, obviously, you have to spend these tokens. And another thing on here is this little rain cloud, meaning if you use that action afterwards, not only do you put this card on the back of your row, but you have to turn it to the rain side, and this side is usually a little bit weaker. Here you only have move 2 and move 3. The move 4, move 6 from this side is gone. But if you move 2 with the rain side, you may put it back to the sunny side, and it just delays your most powerful actions. Staying with these cards, there's also usually a text at the bottom of the card that gives you something special, and these are actually Chada and Thorn's unique special abilities. For example, Chada here has something saying you get an arrow card, which is a combat equipment card, which allows you to do a lot of damage to an enemy. And how do you get enemies? Well, as I said, one of the penalties, actually these curse cards have most of those penalties. As you can see, if you want to get rid of that or put it back onto the row, you can decide move the curse, lose one of the stamina tokens, or pick one of those fog cards. Now, the interesting part about this is you don't have, well, there's a stack of 4 cards, but you don't have all of them available to your disposal. In fact, each of these maps says on the top, for example here, it says put 3 4 cards at the top of this map. So you pick 3 cards from the stack and put them on top of here. And whenever you have to draw a 4 card, you draw from the stack of 3. If you should ever have to draw a card and the stack is empty, you lose the game immediately. So that is quite annoying, actually, because then you have to start again. Then once you draw one of these 4 cards and place them on the back, in this case it's a gore, and you might be familiar from the base game. These are, well, annoying little monsters that you have to beat to get out of your way. If you would pick the gore, let's say, this is what our thing looks like. I have to place the gore back on my row, and when he comes to the front, I have to fight him because there's no other way I can get rid of him. So he's blocking my row entirely, and that is actually another way how you can lose the game if one of the heroes has all of these 3 columns blocked by any card. And cannot do anything to get rid of them, you lose the game. But not all is lost. As you can see here, the gore has a red number with a fist, meaning if you deal 4 or more damage to him, you can beat him. You will gain 1 stamina token for doing so. And as you can see, the hero cards also have another stat up here, and they allow you to deal damage. Chada's card here does 2 damage, which would not be enough to beat the gore. Her center card does 5 damage though, and that would be enough to beat the 4, or as previously seen, those arrows do actually 9 damage and are really powerful, but there's only 5 of those cards in the game, and if you use an equipment card, it gets moved out of the game, so you have to plan ahead and use those things. Another thing to consider is if the gore is in front of this row, obviously you cannot use any cards from this column to beat him, and I say row and column all the time, although what I mean is the 3 columns in front of you. I guess you can follow me. So if you have a baddie in front of you, you have to use one from the other columns to beat him, meaning he gets discarded, you get the bonus for beating him, and then the other card gets moved to the back row. I try not to hit you.
Yeah, I was just surprised.
I'm doing the Swedish chef of explaining card games.
That's fine.
And that's probably most of it. There's some little rules in there. If you get to the next map tile and still have some of these fog cards available in your current map tile, they get carried over, and if you get a bonus card. So being efficient or being not too bad with spending these or picking up these gets rewarded. And most of the game really just consists of staring at those maps and trying to figure out, well, where do we want to go? And here it is probably a bit clear on this intermediate lap. You start here, and then you can decide, do you want to go the route down here or up here? Some make you encounter other cards that you have to pick up, like some shipwrecked dude. Others cost you a lot of stamina points, while they might provide you with stamina points, but really could slow you down. And each of these has up here saying how many fog cards get placed there, as I said previously. So you get through these 4 cards and get to the end tile, which always has this little fireplace up here. And what you have to do is to get Thorn to his space, Chada to her space. If one of those players actually gets there first, they get 3 of these magnificent fireplace tokens. And instead of doing something on their turn, they have to spend those. If the second hero does not get to the fireplace within 3 turns, both lose the game. So that actually all covers what we have in terms of how do you win the game, how do you lose the game. Win the game, really simple. You have to get to there. Lose the game, also kind of simple. Whenever whenever you cannot do any actions because your 3 columns are blocked by other cards, or you cannot pay for them, you cannot advance or do anything with them. Whenever you have to draw a fog card from the active stack and it's empty, you are not allowed to get there. And last but not least, if the curse gets you, so whenever he touches one of your minis or overtakes you, you also lose the game. Actually, this game, not the other card game. And yes, we made that joke quite a lot. I still make it from time to time.
You just forgot one thing: the standing next to each other bonuses.
Oh yeah.
Because that's kind of important.
It is a cooperative game. So whenever you're standing next to each other with your little, you may help the other player. You may either use your attack card to attack a monster in his or her column, or you may trade equipment by just handing it over, and then it gets put on the back side of any column the other one chooses to do so. So with that, it is actually always really beneficial, and a hot tip here, to stay together. Not only because you're able to, beat monsters the other player has in one of his tracks or do something, but also for the other player is covering a space that might be annoying to get through, or you don't want to get there or don't have that many movement points while the other overtakes. So the entire game is a cycle of one goes first, blocks the space, then you try to move over to the next annoying thing, blocking that, then the next player comes. Sometimes you have to rest. I don't want to, it's not really resting, but sometimes you cannot move because one of the players doesn't have a movement card, so you have to shuffle through those cards, maybe accept to pay for a curse card to advance in a column to get to that movement card. Your friends are usually helpful in this if I find them, because they have abandoned me. Where are the other friends?
Here.
Oh, there.
You covered them up.
It's great to have a table where you can cover up stuff. So there's very simple effects. For example, Grenadine here gives you just one of these stamina tokens, while Merrick allows you to go to the next space, regardless of how many steps are required to get there. He is actually pretty useful. You have Kerr, who allows you to put one of the curse cards at the back of the row. So he allows you to skip a curse card for free, which is pretty nice as well. Or the Unknown Warrior, who is pretty much just a 4 attack card that allows you to kill stuff with 4 attack. I think, but that's that, right?
Yeah.
Anything else I forgot?
No. Oh, yeah, just one minor thing, except from sharing equipment cards or whatever. When you can also share stamina, so that's kind of a good thing if one can produce them and the other one just use them. It is truly a very cooperative game, not only in terms of you have to kind of agree on what you want to do, but you share. And you sit next to each other, you look at the same space. So pretty much like us. Sitting on the couch, talking to the camera while playing. No, later. Okay. So, I think that covers the game. Do you want to go on with what you liked or not liked, or do you want me to go first? I can keep going. I can drink coffee. Just a minor addition to that. This truly is just a 2-player game. There is a solo play variant available, but you have to download the rules. There's a piece in here for a guy called Stinner who is kind of helping you, and you can play solo with that. None of us have done that, but it is a pure 2-player game, so no more than that. And the box says, let me read the box to you. So this says ages 10 and up and goes for 45 minutes. I think that's a lie. Well, we had maybe one that went 45 minutes, but we were a lot quicker with it. Yeah, but we're kind of used to these kind of games, so maybe, and we don't argue as much. Also, so we got a lot of frustration out of our system playing the base Andor game. So regarding this, we are quicker, but maybe for somebody who doesn't know either the universe or is not that familiar with these kind of games, maybe it takes 45 minutes then. And we drew pretty lucky with the scenarios. But that's funny stories and experiences. And I think, so this is very similar to Legends of Andor, a very deterministic game. Mm-hmm. So meaning, yes, there are some elements of luck in here, but you have a lot of control and a lot of visibility of what are the pieces, what can you do, where do you want to plan to, and if you are like me, you might be very suggestive in terms of we should go there and do this and do that because that then happens and then that. So if you're an alpha player, you might tone it down a bit. While we were playing, Sarah hasn't complained about that, but I noticed myself that I was... but on the last scenario, we went my way. So what I meant with we don't argue, which makes the game quite fast for us, or faster than the box suggests, is that we actually think pretty similar on how to get there. So I don't have to argue with you because what you suggest makes a lot of sense to me. So
I
it
try
could
to.
be it could be the alpha player kind of thing, but I see what you see,
Yeah.
and therefore you just say it, and I think it, so it's fine.
If someone would come up and say this isn't a game, this is a two-player cooperative puzzle, I wouldn't say they're wrong. But so is the Legends of Andor base game. We still haven't talked about this in this format, but Legends of Andor also is a very puzzle intense game because you are really trying to project, okay, he's moving there and I move there, and once you know for a given scenario what to do, I'm pretty sure with at least the base game you're always doing that fine, unless you're playing with one of the expansions that mix things up a little bit. I actually think this tries to do that by having these in-between intermediate maps and shuffling them up to have different ones of those. What I certainly like is there's, I think, there should be 4 scenarios in here, and each of them has a different feel in terms of gameplay mechanics. Not mechanics, but in terms of gameplay to it, because I want to say they try to make you lose on different conditions without giving away how these work. But you might imagine that some go more into a direction where movement is more important, others go in a direction where combat is more important, and I like that. It's nothing groundbreaking, but it is certainly there. And I have to say, I really like the idea of having those card columns in front of you and rotating through them, and that governing your actions. Probably there's a game out there that does that. I have seen this for the first time with this game, and that is also one of the things I wish there was more to that, because I could see that being a thing in a bigger game with more going on.
Yes.
And but that is a complaint about a game that is scoped to be small, so it's not really a complaint. It's just I would be excited to see this kind of
in a bigger Andor
gameplay thing in any other bigger game.
Yeah, I think it fits particularly nice with this universe for whatever reason. I cannot really explain why that is. But I like that mechanic with the rotating actually more than the rolling dice mechanic of the base game.
Yeah, because that is...
So I would love if they could make this kind of mechanic with the card rotating on the next big expansion. Yes, I would love that if that's even possible.
I would... I like the idea of having these little maps, and this is the second game I see this year with that kind of thing. It's not really this year, but at Essen they had Seventh Continent, which is a game that is, I think, still on Kickstarter, or it's already done on Kickstarter, which reminded me of having also different tiles and you kind of explore the world. It is way simpler here by just having 4 of those, and the 2 of those are always the same for the scenario. But I like that, and I'm throwing this away, but it has the same really nice looking artwork as what you know from an Andor game, I have to say by now, because the other ones also have nice artwork. Same goes for the cards. I actually like the rain sides a little bit better even. They're very thematic. Yes, they look a little bit generic fantasy, but that's Andor for you. I mean, I would be looking... This leaves me looking forward to playing maybe a deck building game with that kind of mechanic where you have not one deck but kind of 3 decks, and you have to decide where to put something and get an advantage over that. That being said, if you don't really like that puzzly feeling to games where that certainly this game, if you do not win a mission, I would say you are left with the feeling that it is entirely your fault, because there was no luck really involved in making this win. And that's easy to say for us because, spoiler, I think we have not lost one. Right?
Nope. And we played the whole game.
And we played through those 4 scenarios. Each we played one.
We go into that with the experience.
We go into that.
Yeah. How did you like the manual?
Because
spoiler, with the big Andor, I was the manual reader, and
most of the manual was printed on cards. That too. One of my complaints with.
Yeah, but the there were 2 rule books for the base game, and there were some things that contradicted themselves.
Yeah.
So I wonder how you liked the manual for this one, since the setup and feel and everything is so much like the base game. I wonder if the manual is the same kind of than it was with the base game.
I would say it's a first edition game, so I think we got everything right at the first game, but then as you do, you look online and then find out that there's some errors in there. It's not necessarily an error in the manual, but some things that need to or would have been great to have clarified. It is unfortunate. Some of the cards are either misleading in how their text is. For example, this unknown warrior says, and I'm roughly translating on the fly, so bear with me. This says beat an enemy, or actually kind of destroy or win over an enemy at your or one of your other players' columns if he's on a space next to you, or put this guy at the end on his roll. So the manual says that with these guys and the equipment cards, if you don't want to use them, you can just put them at the end regardless of what the text on this card says. Then you have some cards like this one that explicitly says that. Also, the text here kind of says, well, you can beat up any enemy, and regardless of what power they are, but then this is a 4 attack card or 4 strength card. So really what this is an equipment card that you don't have to discard after using it. And it would have been way easier by just saying, hey, this is a 4 attack card, don't discard it if you want to use it, and you can use it like any other equipment card too, and that's that. This is kind of confusing. Some other things are a little bit more unfortunate, and I hope that gets ironed out in a later release, or maybe they release a sticker that does that. For example, this card has an arrow on it. This says gain 2 stamina points if you use his special ability, but what's missing is the little cloud icon because you're supposed to turn that over. And there's also the possibility to generate infinite stamina tokens based on what cards you have. You need a very specific combination of having a card that you need 2 cards that generate stamina and have the curse card that takes 1 stamina from you in that row, and then you can just keep on cycling through those and generate 2, pay 1, generate 2, and you get the idea behind that. Which is unfortunate, although I have to say, if you keep the curse cards random, we haven't really run into this, and
No.
we didn't even have the need to do this to beat the game, and it's still and again I'm getting over the next thing. Whenever we won, it felt like an earned victory, so I don't count that as too bad. It's unfortunate, but I mean, things like these happen, and it's not game breaking. Well, you might argue that the stamina thing is game breaking, but if you have enough self-restraint, you can get by that, or you can actually easily avoid that by putting one of the curse cards on that row where you have the friend card, or you can do. I think the designer actually suggested that those friend cards are only in there to make your life easier. So.
You don't have to play with those. You can leave them out.
Since I already said we won every game, I have not lost. Although we did not win by a mile always, but if you go by the golden ratio for cooperative games, where you want to have at least half the games being lost or where the game wins, you might want to amp up the difficulty. I understand that this is different for this kind of game due to its puzzly nature. I think it's one thing to have a difficult game that is random.
And then another one that you can kind of control.
It just feels different. I think it's
so.
more a punch in the gut if you know it's your fault.
It was definitely doable. But and you just screwed up.
Removing those friend cards moves you closer to a game that is a bit more unforgiving, and then I would kind of put it into the realm of difficulty where, let's say, Ghost Stories is, or Pandemic maybe even. But all that said, the manual is fine. It's short. We got started. It does kind of the same thing as the base game, where each scenario comes with actually always 2 cards of here are the icons and what you can do, and a little story, and it's the story aspect is really thin. If you like the Andor universe, I think this is a nice little bit of information, although I think there's the background story to that island where those 2 heroes land upon, and this entire game is actually set after the first expansion of the base game. So these 2 are traveling back to Andor and land on this island and try to get away from that and figure out that, well, things are cursed. It is very thin, and it's a nice kind of surrounding thing, and I guess with the imagery gives a nice theme, a little bit of context. It's not just a abstract puzzle game in this thing, but again, it has specific rules on some fields, and it would have been fine to put all of these into the manual.
But I like it actually more with the cards, because otherwise you take out the manual again, flip through.
Yeah, but
which one am I at that I'm reading? And since in all the different kinds of scenarios, there's something a little different. There's another villain coming, or other icons coming. I like that you can only look at them once you go through the scenario. You're not kind of overwhelmed with all the information.
It's probably
kind of nice.
Yeah, just take that. This is my absolute personal preference. I just like to have a reference menu, if possible. Have a manual that explains the game, and then have a quick reference manual that just explains all those icons and stuff like that. And that's something I really like, because playing those games, you then just end up looking individual stuff, knowing.
Well, I liked those cards even better. I mean, that was actually the one thing that I liked of the base game too, that you got the story in bits and pieces and didn't have to look back at the manual. With the base game, you had to look other things up in the manual during gameplay, but that's another kind of story. But I really liked that they kept these kind of cards. You put into the scenario with your tiny card. You have some special icons on there that are just in the scenario. They're quickly explained, and with this one, I think they did a good job with that. So most of the things were just explained really well, and we didn't have any questions, and we just could hop right in. And there was actually a cute little introduction scenario in the manual that you play before you play the first scenario that we just showed you in the map tiles for. That it was cute.
Reminds me of Crossmaster, but this is actually one of those map tiles that teaches you like base movement and stuff.
And I think that was just cute and nice to have it in there. My favorite thing about this game is the replayability factor, meaning that you can always choose the 2 or take other 2 intermediate tiles, so it's never the same. And there's a lot of potential for expansions later, so they bring new scenarios, whatever, to go through that cursed island there. They might have some other villains, some other friends, or stuff like that. So I really, really like that. I was very happy with the artwork. Again, it puts you, it's really in the Andor universe. So if you played the base game, you're just right back in and you feel at home. So it's nice that they kept all of the aspects of that universe.
If you are well, if you obviously if you can speak German, I think this is certainly worth picking up, especially if you want to have like a quick 2-player game. And I would say for Christmas, if this would be in competition with anything, I guess it's in competition with Seven Wonders Duel.
Yes.
Another, well, they are very different in terms of Seven Wonders is a competitive game, this is a cooperative game. But maybe that's something you might want to consider if you're looking for a nice little 2-player cooperative game. This is perfectly fine. If you're not capable of German like we are not capable of German either. We just pretend to. Actually, the game isn't too bad. There's a lot of icons on there that pretty much tell you what to do. This wall of text on this card may look scary, but usually these cards are very, very simple in terms of effect by saying, take a card here, put it at the back of the row there, and do something else. So I would say probably you can do this easily by having some Google Translate thing or something on top of that. If you don't want to wait for an English release, and none of us, we looked it up and none of us could see.
I thought I had seen it when I went shopping for your Advent calendar, because I also looked at American distributors, but well, I must have misremembered because we didn't find the English release date, but I guess it's gonna come soon-ish.
But this has the advantage of being an open information cooperative game. So you could perfectly sit there and just scan in text and try to figure it out. You have all the time in the world. You don't have any hidden information from the other player.
Since it's co-op.
So yeah, if you're willing to go that mile and if you want to have Andor in your hands, I think it's perfectly fine to go for this version.
So let's rate before we go into funny stories and experiences. What's your rating?
For me, this gets 2 gores up.
Okay. On my personal scale of 1 to awesome, it's a 9.5. It lost a tiny bit because of the print hiccup with the German first edition, the cloud thing that he was just explaining. But I'm very sure it will be redeemed in the upcoming prints. So then it's an awesome game that has a lot of potential to be either, well, having expansions or be even made into a bigger version of the Andor universe games.
And it's in the time range for being a dinner game.
Yes.
Which is actually replayable with the randomizing.
So let's hop right in. Funny stories and experiences. So as we already said, we played each of the scenarios once. And you know, it's a really good thing if you're capable of reading and then remembering.
And comprehending.
And then remembering.
Although I have to say, so we played the first scenario and okay, we're getting used to that. So let's see how the next one is, and I just picked the next one, and then while playing the next one, I don't think I said it, but I thought, man, this is Andor. This is ramping up the difficulty. Every small misstep, you really have to sit there. How do we?
I could do this, but then do we wanna?
Every single card play has to be meticulously calculated, and this is really a tough victory if we want to make it. And then we made it, and
then I said, I wonder what the next scenario will be like if this was the second one. And he was like, hold on.
And then I remembered, wait, there's in the manual there's a suggested order of play for the scenarios, and turns out we played
the fourth one.
Turns out we played the first and then the last directly. And
so why make it easy, right? So we were kind of curious then if the real second and third scenario would be easier. And funny enough, I thought the second scenario was more difficult than the third one. So it was like easy, difficult, if you would have played it in the right order of scenarios. So
I think in hindsight, I would still say the fourth was
the
difficult, and
most.
all the others were. We have usually won with a pretty decent head start in front of the curse, and
Yes.
could have made. I would say we had room enough for both of us to make 3 or 4 blatant mistakes and still recover.
Yes, that's true, but I was just surprised that the real second one was way more difficult than the real third one. So, yeah, but we were really sitting there like, crunching, like, oh no, this really feels like Andor, and that's always awesome when you feel home in your universe that you're playing, and then you recognize certain annoyances, or I don't know, just really, yeah.
Although I have to
grinding through that scenario.
I have to say in this game, and that's due to the nature of the scenarios being very similar with that. It almost always felt like, okay, we have to distribute the penalties.
Mm-hmm.
Take a 4 card here, maybe then move the curse over there. Actually, moving the curse is the least offensive thing to do. It seems in this game. Taking a 4 card is really annoying because not only are you kind of losing 4 cards, but you also get some annoying dude that shows up in one of your card columns.
Yeah, and it just makes it longer till you get to your movement card or your friend card again. So.
The thing I did not get from this, but that I got from the base game, which actually reminds me of another game we very much like, which would be Time Stories, is in the base Andor game, and I'm sorry if you haven't played it, but just to give you a reference frame for my thinking on this, the base Andor game, since this has a puzzly nature, but there is like every scenario to me felt like there's a trick.
Yes.
And the game is actually to figure out that trick and then execute on that trick on whatever the next play and get through it. That is actually where I see the similarity to Time Stories, where also you have to figure out what's the trick, or kind of what's the thing to do, and then be able to execute on it. And yes, there's some variation in terms of luck for dice rolling in those games, but if you know what to do, you should be able to get through this. Here, that's a little bit different because there's not really a trick. What you have to do is kind of optimize every move, which you do in the base Andor game as well, but not as much once you figure out what the overall thing is that you want to go for.
You leave just things aside. You don't go to certain locations, and here you just, there's not the draw of certain locations because there's not a whole other story behind it or things you have to figure out. You just have to get across that goddamn island.
I think the thing that you mentioned, which you liked about the base game, is the story cards that change things up a little bit.
Yes.
And while that is
you get a catapult here.
But
it is. But it's the randomizing thing. You don't play, even if you know the trick, you still might play with a different kind of scenario next time.
What I mean is, at the first time you play an adventure there, it will throw you a curveball because you don't know what the story cards are that are coming up. So you probably won't win this on the first way through. But that doesn't change later on.
It does at a certain point in the later scenarios. There's roll a die and then you get a certain story card, and you get the catapult, you get the kraken,
that's the expansion.
Yeah, like I said, later on there's that randomizing thing as well. So even if you know the trick, you don't know which thing you gotta fight against.
I was leaving out the expansion on purpose for that.
I don't remember if there was a randomizer.
Because this game doesn't have that at all. Yes, you have the random map tiles,
but still,
they're all very much similar to each other. There's no
there's no
new objective that gets introduced surprisingly. Which I think is fine, and let's not get ahead of ourselves. This is a 2-player cooperative game aimed at kids 10 and up, and, well, the 45 minutes, although I have to say this.
Well, if you're playing with a 10-year-old, it might be a bit longer or more
it's
difficult,
probably way more challenging then. But
if you get through that, I mean, the victory really felt like a victory for us, so imagine
I felt like a 10-year-old.
Yes, same. So, yeah, it was just...
Curse you.
A nice thing, and I really like to see more of that mechanic in that universe. So, if anybody from Cosmos is watching, get on it.
Right, well, and it doesn't...
Do something about it. You've got something there.
For me, it doesn't... I'm cool with Andor. I do like it.
You could even apply it to other games, but you've got something there that is cool.
In parts, it is a generic fantasy game, but
I like Andor.
Yeah, there's something
about
I think with every Andor title there was something I thought was really compelling from a gameplay perspective. Probably that's just my take on this. But
but there was something different that changed up the game a bit. With every expansion,
I'm pretty sure they could have brought out this game and
with another storyline,
and made it a very simple trick-taking game or something like that, and people probably would have bought that as well.
I like the puzzly nature.
This is.
But I'm a puzzle person, so
this is to me this feels like, and probably this is, I guess, the biggest compliment I can give this. This feels like someone sat down and said, how can we condense what's so special about the board game into the smallest piece of game possible. And this seems to be that. And it's totally fun for them.
Yeah. So that finishes the video for this game on a nice note. Shall we go into the last section, unboxing your advent calendar, and see if there's a new game in there?
Last bonus section. Yeah, probably.
No, there's one more bonus section because there will be one more gift for you next week. But
a duck.
No, it's a box. Ooh, and a heavy one. A stone. Please open it in a internet-friendly fashion, and let's see what you got in there that, well, is probably a game since we have it on the couch.
The other big question is...
Are we going to play it tonight? Yes.
Is there a duck in here as well?
I don't know. It could be.
What kind of duck is in there?
How do you know it's a duck?
If you haven't noticed by now... we've been doing this for over a year now. We're on which number?
57 or 58, I think.
So we talked. Thanks for coming around and listeners talk to each other about what we think on games. We are mostly doing this to actually talk to each other. That's kind of how we define our marriage, I guess.
That's a cool thing, right? I mean, we both love board games, so
True.
having a set date every week to talk just about that one hobby of ours, I think it's just great. And you can participate and watch along and see what we think. You said
so. This is either a very cool duck in a swimming pool or a cool duck sitting on a poison mushroom with 3 lines of sausages above him. Both very compelling pictures. Thank you very much.
You're most welcome. It's the first. He's on vacation. He's like sunny in a pool.
Cheers.
That will be fun in editing. Oh gosh. I hope the mic...
And for the vacation part, we are going on an adventure vacation, it seems.
Yes.
So this is, and if you did a German lesson of the day, talking about a pure German game all the time. So this is the adventure quest.
Quest.
Is it Dominion Quest?
I think it is.
I'm blanking on the English title. It's the one that introduces objectives, I think, and stuff.
So it's in the realms of Dominion, but quite different.
Really looking forward to trying this. If you don't happen to know, Dominion was kind of the game that got us back into board games.
Yes.
By being gifted to us by my parents, then residing on the shelf for a long time, not being played, and which is inconceivable by now for games we own. But that kind of rekindled love for board games that had been there all the time, but for some reason was left under a pile of other stuff.
There's one thing: video games, artwork, and working, like in an office. So time was.
We had to get rid of some of that stuff.
Yes.
For example, working.
Well. Or just changing jobs and doing artwork as your job.
that works as well.
And not working in an office anymore, but at home, where we could actually just leave the computer at one point, get into the adjacent living room and play board games without traveling home for hours. So we just made time.
We'll let you know how this quest turns out for us.
Yes.
And with that, we would like to thank you for showing up. And if you like what you've seen, there's a button for that. There?
There? No.
There? It's the right button, right?
Yeah.
No, it's there.
It's on the right.
There. Whatever. Pick the one you like more, and click it or not. You can subscribe, but chances are, if you're seeing this, you already did. So find someone else who could do that.
Which, hey, you made the sharing part for the first time. I'm so proud of you.
And if they don't want to, make them. Give them a stern look and say, it's Christmas time. You want to know about the board games.
Use the force. Now, also, if you have any questions or comments, you can leave them in the comment section below and make us giggle or laugh or just informed. We love all of that. And we'll see you next Sunday on the Gamers Couch with the last unboxing. It's also the last Gamers Couch before we do have a special edition of the Gamers Couch for you. And with that, the husband, the duck, and I will say bye. Have a very good day.
Goodbye.
Oh, gosh.